Hello, lacrosse friends, and welcome to Inside the World of Box Lacrosse. I'm Steven Stamp. He is Greg Beecher, and we are very excited to bring you the show this week. Although, with a tinge of sadness, I'm sure many of you, most of you probably have seen that Adam Levi has stepped away from lacrosse. Indefinitely was the way he put it. I know he appreciates everyone's thoughts and concerns. I think he's the best reporter who's covering lacrosse right now.
100%. I mean, if I have a question about something with current events or I'm wondering something, if it's not on IL Indoor, it's on his Twitter feed. Like that, it's just the way it is. If it hasn't been made it quite to IL Indoor, you go to his feed to check it out. So it's really is a big loss for the entire community of everybody who watches the NLL.
It is. Hopefully it won't be permanent. I have spoken to Adam, and I mean, we speak all the time. I spoke to him a couple days ago, and he wants to come back, but he just needs to be away from it right now. And I can tell you, I'm not going to share Adam's story. That's his story to tell, but I do know that it's not easy always covering this game. We definitely are not doing it to get rich. I'm trying to make a living doing this, and thank God my wife is becoming a nurse so that she can support me, but in this passion. But I tell you, there are wonderful people in the game of lacrosse. There are so many times when I was in Prague, twice during the week and a half I was there, I had people start a chant going, Stamper, Stamper. I didn't even know how to react to it. It's like, that's really nice. It's kind of embarrassing. Like, it's hard to be in the center of attention sometimes, but it was wonderful. I mean, these are great people. So many people are thankful and really appreciate what people like Adam do for the game, but it is not universal. And there are times when you do the very best you can and you do what you think is best to try and help the sport and grow the sport in a professional way. And it is not always appreciated by everyone.
You do anything long enough, you're going to get people like that. And it's a very fine line between that. And honestly, it's why everybody goes to him, is because he's so good at it. And it's, it's unfortunate that, I don't know. I guess that really sums it up. Really, it's just it's very unfortunate because guys like me, I really, he is my go-to source. If I don't, if I text you and you don't answer me, that's what I do. I just jump right on X. It's the only time I get on it. Literally, my phone knows. I open X, it goes right to Adam's thing basically because it knows the only thing I'm ever going to check is that. I don't actually check the NLL stuff or any of that. I just go right to Adam, and if he hasn't reported on it, I don't need to know it. Sometimes it does take a while to scroll through, but
yes.
It is.
He does post a lot, which is part of the job. I will say, if you're looking for breaking news or an answer to a breaking question, I'm not a bad person to text, but you should text Adam first.
Yeah.
I mean, he is so dialed in. So we obviously we miss Adam, but we are going to roll ahead with the show. We've got a couple of more weeks here. We've got this week and next week and maybe the week after. We'll see what happens in the final.
I think it's going to be a rush sweep.
What's that?
I said, I think it's going to be a rush sweep. That's what I'm pulling for now.
Okay. So this is our predictions last week. Adam didn't put his prediction in. We'll say that he took Halifax just so we can make that 1-0 a 1-1. And I have no idea what he was going to take. But did he not pick last week?
No, he did. He picked Sass as well.
Oh, he did. Okay, the A wasn't there. So.
Yeah. No. She took it off and made it like this. So yeah, your 1-0 was the that's the series. Yeah, you were 1-0 last week, and then for the playoffs, you're 5-3.
Okay, that doesn't look that bad, actually.
No, you did pretty good for the and honestly, it's so tough at the beginning of the playoffs because really that's where you're going to get the upsets. You're going to have, it's one game.
Well, not this year.
Yeah, no, this year it was the exact opposite. Everybody was on point. That San Diego game, I don't know what's going on with Buffalo's offense. I know I'm going to get us way off topic. That's the problem with me.
Yeah,
but
it's interesting. That's something I looked at in. I do have a preview up that we'll get to later on Inside Lacrosse and IL Indoor, and it was kind of shocking seeing that Buffalo only scored 25 goals in their 3 games in the playoffs, including 5 in the first win over San Diego, the lowest scoring game in NLL history, 5-4. The offense is not doing what it's been doing. The transition isn't really taking up a lot of the slack. Nick Weiss has had a couple of huge goals. That's going to be a huge factor in the finals. And that touches on the transition game, which was massive for Saskatchewan in their win over Halifax. And they actually scored 4 goals in the semifinal game 2 win, including the goal with 5 seconds left that Matt Hossack scored. And what a play by Mike Messenger. And unfortunately, the broadcast missed the start of the play when Halifax restarted with possession and a lead with about 18 seconds to go, or 17 seconds. And we didn't really see until somebody posted a video from the stands, the pass that they threw ahead to let Tarasenko run onto, and just as Ryan Tarasenko's trying to gather it, Mike Messenger dives flat out, reaches, actually knocks the stick out of Tarasenko's hands as he is in the process of grabbing the ball, right? That leads to Ryan Barnable picking up the ball, passes it ahead to Matt Hossack, and Matt Hossack scores a huge goal with Clark Peterson looking to say, hey, do I take him? Do I take the pass? I'll take away the pass. You let the goalie deal with the shot, but Matt Hossack made a perfect shot, and Saskatchewan would not be denied. So that was amazing. We do have a look at what happened that was so critical in the overtime, and this is tough. You have a rookie player; he's trying to make an impact. He's a rookie forward, had a really good season. I think probably he was in the top 5 of rookies this season in the NLL. And as we run this, it's early in the, a minute and a half into the playoffs. Mike Robinson is chasing the Saskatchewan player. You can see right there, rams him into the boards. I saw people saying, oh, so now they're calling loose ball pushes as 5-minute majors. Come on.
Who called that a loose ball push, though? I mean, he clearly extends too. I mean, granted, he probably thought he was a little further on the side. I'm not going to say he egregiously was, because he does look like he gets under him a little bit. But either way, that's 5 minutes all day.
Yeah, it's on the back, into the boards, extends the arm, as you said. Like, there's no question. That on review, I don't think there was much question that was staying as a 5. It wound up being a 10-second penalty and a season penalty. Right? Because Saskatchewan scores. Austin Shanks, absolute highlight reel down the stretch down these playoffs with 10 goals, and Austin Shanks finishes it up. But it just that discipline is just you just can't take those penalties. It's going to have such a huge impact on the game, and it does. Just it's moments later, Saskatchewan takes the ball. They set up the first shot they take in the overtime is going to come here. Austin Shanks will get it back from Church at the top. That's a beautiful shot, by the way. You watch the replay of that from different angles. It's still hard to see where he found a spot to put that ball. Austin Shanks is a great shooter. And that's very similar to his goal earlier in the game that tied it up 7-7 before Halifax had the 2 great goals from Thomas Hogarth to pull ahead 9-7 that set up their need for that reply. And one of the things I think about this is the 3 highest teams in terms of penalty minutes in the league this season were Buffalo first, Toronto second, Halifax third. Buffalo substantially ahead of Toronto and Halifax by about 38 and 30 and 40 points. So that sets up what is it going to be, and I'm kind of leaking into the preview a bit. I don't know. We're a little free form today, or we cannot be if it's going to be too hard.
No, we're free flowing. But hang on, real quick before Charity does have that queued up for the. Let's watch that first hit. So honestly, the Robinsons, both the brothers, they're great players. But this has always been my question with Halifax, and I think it kills them is they take a lot of stupid penalties. That like that one right there.
Yeah, that's the one earlier in the game, and Saskatchewan scores twice on this penalty. And it's the thing about this when you watch it, he's heading to the bench and he stops. And now Mike Robinson had a heck of a season. He's a Peterborough guy. I have spent a good chunk of my life in Peterborough, and he has his Peterborough moment where he stops. He thinks, should I do this? And for some reason, the Peterborough in him says, yeah, I should do this. And he does it, and it's just we've seen it happen so often, and they really pay for it. I mean, I've had my Peterborough moments. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's in the water, but that's a huge penalty that really cost them.
Well, I mean, that's a huge penalty, and let's talk about that for a minute, though. I mean, honestly, Halifax every year has been expected to be there, and they're so close, but dumb penalties kill them. Like you said right there, I mean, so they scored 2 on that one. They get the game winner I mean, what has got to change in Halifax to stop the penalties?
Well, I mean, it's hard, right? Because that's kind of their identity is
It is.
playing that on the edge. I mean, Nungo Thompson and Tyson Bell and a bunch of, I mean, and
when
Jake
you think
Withers,
of Halifax, that's what you think of.
on the edge.
Yeah.
And sometimes go over it, right? Can they play as effectively? Can they be the team they are without doing that? I don't know. I mean, if they don't have that edge, maybe they're not, maybe they're giving up more goals because teams are a little more comfortable in the offensive zone. I don't know. I mean, it's you live by the sword, die by the sword, as I said in the 5 things this week, 5 things we learned. And it's hard when it's your identity. It's the way you approach the game. It's, how do you change that without fundamentally altering the way that your team works, the dynamic that you have? So I think it's not so much widespread cultural change they need. I mean, that's one way to go is say, look, this isn't working. We never get past the first round of the playoffs. Or you can say, we have to find a way to contain this. And I think someone like Sean Evans is a pretty good example. And I think people listening and hearing me say Sean Evans is a good example of discipline are going to be laughing, right? Because Sean Evans is renowned. He's one of the leading penalty minute people acquirers in MSL, in the NLL, and he has gone nuts at times, right? I mean, he got kicked out of a game in Prague at the E-box, right? But as his career went on, early in his career, yeah, he would just do stuff at kind of any time. As his career went on, you really didn't see Sean Evans kind of lose it, go full Evans, go full Evie, as we call it in the town.
Well, for me, that was news. Because right? That's news because as a recent follower, as he was more of a veteran and had that calm demeanor. So when I hear guys talk like that, like that's not the Sean Evans I think of. He was more the team leader, not taking stupid penalties, not doing. I mean, he was an emotional player, but it is hilarious for me, like because I only followed the tail end of his career, so I don't really think of him like that. Like Mike Messenger, who got throat chopped there, I would, that's more of a Mike Messenger move I would see, but that's him showing a great response, great job there. He gets him mad enough to take the penalty, and he just lays down and takes it. Doesn't come out at the next time and sucker punch him or anything stupid. So, I mean, that is a huge thing.
Yeah, and I think that's something that you got to give credit to Saskatchewan for, and that Halifax, that's what they need to do. I think you can't do those things at those times, and they're going to continue to. I think they're going to continue to play an aggressive style. I think people are going to call them dirty. I think it's going to keep working for them.
Yeah.
To the extent that it does. And I think if they're going to really be successful, they're going to have to mature and they're going to have to learn, when you can and can't do it. And that is what Sean Evans did. I mean, it's funny that you would say it calm demeanor of Sean Evans. That is not how people would think of Sean. He's a good dude. Like I get along quite well with Sean, but on the floor, he has a well-earned reputation as a hothead. And I mean, he would drop the gloves with anyone. There's pictures of him fighting, Paul Dawson or he'll fight anybody. And he's just a bulldog. He's fearless and driven to win. But he also, and one, I think a big factor for him, and maybe it's a coaching thing. Maybe Micah Kersey has to step up his game in this area. Because I'll tell you, when Sean Evans was in Calgary, Kurt Malosky famously would be like, Evie, no, on the bench. Evie's like, oh, I'm going to go get him. Evie would just be building up, like the rage would be building up during a game, and Mouse would just be saying no, and then they'd be up by a bunch or down by a bunch, and he'd be like, okay, Evie, and Sean Evans would go out and just let it all out, and he had to, there's all this steam building up. He's so competitive, but directing it at the right times,
guiding it
was a big lesson. And I think Mouse, Kurt Malosky deserves quite a bit of credit for that, and I think that's something that Micah Kersey has to get his guys doing, and that's going to be, to me, the difference between whether Halifax becomes more successful or stays a team that keeps winning a lot of games and can't get over the hump in the playoffs.
Yeah, and that would be unfortunate. I honestly think, though, as you're talking about that, I think that's something John Tavares does better than probably anybody, because a lot of people think about the Bandits. Everybody complains about the reffing for the Bandits, but a lot of it is just it's that demeanor of knowing when to push, when not to, when to take stupid penalties. They got Albany in the finals last year. Albany, who was a very responsible team, to take a bunch of dumb penalties. I mean, and really you got to give credit, or at least I give credit to Tavares for that, because that is a huge thing to be able to push teams like that.
Yeah, Tavares, and I think Steve Priolo a real leader, the captain in Buffalo, who, again,
I will say I
not a
cheer
guy-
against everybody except for Priolo because I've met that guy twice and he has been nothing but a class act every time I've met him first. And on the field, though, he is just, I don't know. I think he's the epitome of what a professional, leader is. He's just tough, physical, steps up when he has to, but he's not too much. Yeah, you don't know how to read the guy necessarily. You tell me he wants to be a rock climber, makes perfect sense because he just has that calm, like looking demeanor that it's like, okay, what is he really thinking right now? I don't know.
Yeah, and I double checked that with him recently, and that's still his goal post lacrosse is to lose like 40 pounds and become a high level rock climber.
To go from something very dangerous to something supremely dangerous, that makes a lot of sense.
Right, but the thing, like Steve Priolo is another guy that you wouldn't think of calm demeanor, right? I mean, he's a fiery competitor, and he gets after it. I know people who hate Steve Priolo more than any player in the NLL, and I would assure you they have not spent much time talking with him. Like you said, because you can't hang out with Steve Priolo and talk lacrosse and talk things without liking the guy. I mean, he's very open. He's very honest. He's self-deprecating, but confident. Like, honestly, he's probably the best interview in the game. And one of the, just one of the, probably the most interesting man in lacrosse. I did write a story about him as the most interesting man in lacrosse. But
I agree.
If you only know him from on the floor, he's pretty easy to hate, I think.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, I'm sure from Charity's perspective, as just a Firewolves fan, she doesn't have very many favorites for the Buffalo Bandits as it is. Honestly, though, has any team made a better turnaround in your eyes, like in the history, than the Rush did this year? Like, for me, to watch what the Rush were last year, which was a fairly good team, not getting those wins that they needed, to this year just finding that magic element. I mean, how many one-goal wins did they have?
I don't have that at the tip of my fingers. It was quite a few, although they won pretty solidly. But, they were 8-10 the last 3 seasons.
Yeah.
And tied for the last playoff spot. One time they lost the crossover spot to Philadelphia when there were still divisions or conferences. And then they had, a couple of ties and didn't make the playoffs. So they were right there. And I mean, you look even, a couple of years ago when there was a disputed goal. They scored an overtime goal. It was Josh Courier. It goes back a bit, right? Against Halifax in the season opener that was waved off. And on review, it looked like it would count. And they just said inconclusive. So that's one that, if they win that game, they're in the playoffs that year as well. I don't think they've been far off. So I don't think it's like a massive turnaround.
But no, getting those one goal wins is what I'm saying. Like, who do you think? Is there a magic element that just got that little difference to put them over the hump? Because like at one point, Albany and them had identical 1-goal games. It was like they each had 5, but Albany had lost every one and Sass had won every one.
That very much statistically tends to go back and forth. That is something like no teams actually tend to win 1-goal games over and over and over again. When it happens, there's an element of luck. It's also putting yourself in position to have that luck, obviously. And that's something where you look at Albany and Saskatchewan is a great example. One of Albany's 1-goal losses was to Las Vegas when they had, I hate to pick on Ben McDonald, but he just had a terrible shift in overtime against Las Vegas, and Adam Poitras scored. Ben McDonald can be a very good player. I think he is a very good player. They did not want to have him out there in overtime covering Adam Poitras. It's just the way things work out sometimes because they had so many injuries with Wagner out, Nishimura out, Tchaikovsky out for a while. I don't know if he was in that game or not. They missed so many guys with injuries. That can make a big difference. You have players having to step into bigger roles that they're not necessarily ready for, right?
I think that was actually the game Tchaikovsky got hurt in.
Oh, right. Earlier in the game?
Yeah, it was earlier in the game because, I remember I was thinking that when I seen him out there. I was like, we are literally running out of bodies. We needed somebody call Leo Sturos, get him down from Canada, and get him in Albany is what I was thinking. But unfortunately.
Like by the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, and if Nick Tchaikovsky is out there on that play, that game may still be going. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
you definitely like your odds better with Tchaikovsky out there either way.
Oh, my God. Yeah, any team's better with Nick Tchaikovsky on it.
Yeah.
But and Saskatchewan has done all the things, and then they've got the breaks, and they've got. I mean, there's not a more clutch player than Austin Shanks right now, right? He is feeling it. So
Well, that's what I was going to say. He has been a huge factor up there. Like, I've always been a Shanks fan, so I started following the league, and they were doing that, like, it was the Halifax, like, inside scoop or whatever it was. They were doing it all the time, and he was playing for
oh yeah,
Halifax at the time.
yeah,
And just like the whole way he goes out there, his mentality, I am a huge Austin Shanks fan. Being able to
yeah.
score that goal, like you said, absolutely clutch when he needed to be. Yeah, huge Shanks fan. I think what a perfect fit has been since he's been there.
Yeah, he's so good on that team that has their scoring really spread, right? They don't have any scorers among the top 20 or so in the league
Except for the
for the
playoffs.
season, except the playoffs. Yeah, because they played more games. I mean, obviously they're going to be up there, but
Well,
they've been scoring big time in the playoffs,
Well,
right?
let's just say they've played as many games as Buffalo has, and what the heck?
11 more goals.
Yeah, it's insane. That's really, I think that's the question going into the preview. We don't want to get too far into the preview. I mean, we're kind of wrapping things up here, but yeah, I don't know. I think honestly, the offense for Sass has come a long way, and really, Frank, I have become a Shigliano fan this year. Huge fan of his, watching him play, having a baby, and who's got it better than them right now with the way Kaisick came in and played, and then as far as goalie wise, I don't know if there's any better 1-2 combination. Maybe you could enlighten me on that one.
I don't know, man. Yeah, no, I think that would be it with Kaisick stepping in. Now, I mean, you've got you would look at Vancouver once Del Bianco got there, and they still had Aiden Walsh. So he's probably gone to Calgary, but that was a pretty good fallback plan. Although, again, Del Bianco, the big reason that they won 6 games in a row and got into the playoffs. So yeah, no, I don't know that there is anyone. Rochester, honestly, having
it's true,
having Riley Hutchcraft to fall back on behind Ryland Hartley, but the top level, I mean, Shiliano had a much better season than Ryland Hartley or Riley Hutchcraft, right? So yeah.
Are they both back next year? Who's leaving? Who's leaving Rochester? If you had to, you got to bet the house on it. Which guy's out of Rochester?
I had to bet the house, and I'm not really a betting man, but I would bet on Hutchcraft leaving. I feel like Hartley's a ride or die.
Yeah, I feel that as well. I was more wondering because of the injury last year and this year if maybe they were getting a little nervous.
Before that.
Oh, so it's a constant thing that he.
Ryland Hartley's had a lot of injury trouble, a lot of concussion issues, and then the lower body issues. So, yeah, it's been a concern. That doesn't mean he's going to be injured the rest of his career. He could play another 10 years, never have another injury. Who knows? But that's not usually how it goes.
You get into concussion problems. Goalies are literally taking, like, even at practice, it's like a boxer. Once you get into that issue, you just can't. You only get so many shots to the head, I feel like, and yeah.
So, not that we're wishing ill at all to Ryland Hartley. I mean, obviously.
No, I love watching him. He's one of the most entertaining goalies to watch.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
He is.
Yeah, I could watch him play all the time. Like him and Duncan playing for the Northmen, like that athletic style. I want to
for the main Northland. Unbelievable.
I absolutely love it. That's my favorite style. I like athleticism and crazy plays, so I want to make highlights. That's what I want.
Now, there's the odd time where, I mean, with Ryland Hartley, the problem is he drops and they shoot it over his shoulder, right? And that happens fairly often. And with Brian Duncan, it's, he's just made a couple of crazy saves and then he's over like 3 feet outside the net while they're coming around the other side. But, I mean, it is a lot of fun. It's high risk, high reward.
Yeah, it's it really is. And those guys tend to overreact. Speaking of overreacting though, I mean, is anybody think Buffalo is going to be held to 5 goals or less in this final series in either game?
No.
Yeah. Although I wouldn't have thought so in the first 2.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. But I mean, I don't see it happening again. It's interesting that looking at Buffalo, that with Ian McKay scoring 9 goals, everyone's focused on that. Rightfully so. He's been outstanding. But the one thing is, Byrne and Smith have kind of flipped their roles, right? Dane Smith set the assist record for the 4th straight season. He's got 5 goals and 6 assists in the playoffs. Josh Byrne, who's been their top goal scorer, has 1 goal and 10 assists in the playoffs. So that I mean, how do you stop them? Apparently, you do whatever San Diego did, have Chris Origlieri stand on his head.
Yeah.
I don't know. It is hard to stop them from scoring goals.
Yeah, according to the NLL stats, though, so Byrne is 1 for 20. So 20 shots on goal. You figure he's got at least 5 more. Boy, that's a rough number for him. And I know when you got a guy that shoots, you just keep giving him the ball and letting him shoot, and eventually he comes around. And you definitely, nobody I think would ever say you don't give Josh Byrne the ball. But I think it is hilarious to watch. I had just picked up that stat actually as I was waiting for my doctor's appointment this morning. I was going through the stats and I was like, really, only one goal? Wow.
Yeah. People, it happens, right? I mean, he was the MVP of the finals last year.
Yeah.
It's not like he's not a clutch player or a big time performer in the playoffs. So that's going to be interesting to see who winds up winning the MVP. I will say, for one, people who are saying, well, if Saskatchewan wins, it has to be Shanks. If Buffalo wins, it has to be McKay or Vince. That's all out the window. It is for the NLL finals. I checked with the league this morning just to make double sure, and it's the award is for the MVP of the NLL finals, not the whole playoffs. So, yeah, so everything's kind of out the window at this point. And we're going to have somebody step up and lead their team to a championship.
Absolutely. Well, let's take a quick break, and then we'll come back and we'll get into what we've already started to.
Yeah. Welcome back, lacrosse friends, to Inside the World of Box Lacrosse. I'm Steven Stamp with Greg Beecher. No Adam Levy this week. Adam, we miss you. We are looking forward to your eventual return to lacrosse. It's a better space with you in it. And we are going to get to our preview of the NLL finals, which we've done probably half of in the review of last week. But first, we want to take a peek at the NLL draft. And it got spiced up this week with Will McLeod officially entering the draft. He was due to be in next year. He was a junior at Robert Morris University this year in Pittsburgh. He finished his last assignment for RMU for his third year on Friday night. On Saturday, he drove from Pittsburgh up to his home in Stony Creek, just outside of Hamilton, dropped off all his gear from school, made sure he had his lacrosse gear in the truck, and drove down to the ILA to play with the Brooklyn Merchants and scored 3 goals in the second period as they won 8-6 against the defending league champion Six Nations Rivermen. So a pretty good start. The following night, the Merchants were at home actually playing against the Clearview Crushers or Collingwood Crews. It's a little confusing if you go to the site. I'm not sure what they are right now. I think they've moved, but they're still showing a Clearview on the site. Anyway, he had 4 goals and 3 assists. Zach Kerrigan, who fans of the Alice Rabeski will remember as an all-time great over in Prague, he is playing for that team as well. He had 4 goals and 4 assists. They won big 13-4. They actually won again last night. Zach Kerrigan had, I think, another 4 goals or at least a hat trick. And Will McLeod had 2 goals and 3 assists. It is quite a start for the Merchants after losing their first game. And Will McLeod is, I think, a top 5 guy in this year's draft. That's the big thing. So with Toronto having the first 3 picks in the draft, it is very interesting to consider what they do. Everyone assumes they're going to take CJ Kirst. I think they'll take CJ Kirst. Probably first overall because it's a great story. He goes first in the PLL, first in the NLL, right? And he's a great guy to add to your team. Very skilled, gritty, works inside. Great addition to your team for years. I think they'll take Braden Saris on the right side. I think he's the top righty. He was the dominant player in the OGLL playoffs 2 years ago when Burlington Blaze won the Minto Cup. And the interesting thing there, Burlington, after they'd made a trade with the Peterborough Lakers, some of their key players were Braden Saris, Will McLeod, Alex Marinier, who is also in this draft and is probably a top 6 or 7 guy, and Ben Trumbull, Sam Trumbull. I always go back and forth. Look in the thing because I've got it in there. I have to pull it up because I mix the two brothers up constantly, which I don't know why. I mean, they are their own people, but yeah, Trumbull will be, I think, a good bet to go very early. He was the transition player of the year in the Ontario Junior A League a couple years ago. His brother actually won it the following year. It's Ben that's in this year, and Sam is 2 years down the road. So, and also, I mean, Connor Knock is in play. I think so. If you're Toronto, say you take Kirsten Saris, right, a lefty and a righty, who are going to be key to your offense for years and years to come. Do you then decide I'm going to take a D transition player because it's a better balance? Or do you say, Will McLeod and Braden Saris were a dynamic duo in junior. McLeod is ripping it up here so far in the summer. We'll see how his summer goes. I think he's a terrific player. Do you take 3 offensive players and add, put McLeod, Saris, and Kirst all together and just build your offense around them for the next decade? And then, re-sign Mr. Snew and they do have a solid defense. What do you think?
I always think when it comes to these drafts, you take the best player you can. Just from years of watching hockey drafts when I was younger, I don't really, follow much of it anymore. But I always just saw you take the best player you can, you get the best value. You can either trade away that guy later, or you end up with something great. I mean, so yeah, and especially the way their defense is set up, though. I think they've got a solid defense. I think you have to go with you got to go with the best offense you can, because at the end of the day, really what Toronto needed most of the time was somebody to score goals.
Yeah, this year for sure. Tom Schreiber was out again for a bunch of the year. So I think there are so many factors. Is Nick Rose coming back to Toronto? I think most people think he is, but there's no sure thing. We don't know. I suspect he is. If he doesn't, do you win with Troy Holochuk? He was good down the stretch. Is he a guy you can run out 18 times a year and win a championship? I don't know. I don't think we've seen that. I don't think anybody really knows that. So I think that plays a big factor in it, because Toronto's defensive success over the years, everyone sees the high, the top end guys, Mitch DeSnew, Brad Creed, Latrell Harris. They've got some great players, right? But they've had amazing depth. When Adam Jay was with Toronto, he was in and out of the lineup. He's a very good defensive player, right? They've got guys like Josh Steubenville that don't get a ton of attention. Sorry,
I was going to say Justin Martin.
Yeah, Justin Martin, a great transition player, right? Obviously, Challen Rogers when he's playing at the back door. I mean, they've got so much. They've got depth, but they had so much depth before, and they don't quite have that. They're running, Zach Kearney's going out and playing. Zach Kearney's a good lacrosse player, but he's not at the caliber, at the level of a bunch of these other players that they've got and they've had at the bottom end of their D. You're putting roles on guys, again, like Albany was forced to. So do you need to add more defensive depth? I mean, bringing Mr. Snew back would be huge. You can sign some other free agents, but I wouldn't necessarily say don't take Trumbull or Connor Knock or Dante Bowen, maybe, as a defender in the draft as one of those 3 picks. I think Knock is a guy that players have told me he was hard to play against. Like when they would go up against him in Toronto and then in Coquitlam when he got banished out there, he was one guy that offensive players did not like having to go up and play against, because he would just limit them so much. So I think you have to think about the balance.
Well, plus, though, I mean, you end up with
take 3 forwards and just there's your core, right?
But your guys that lead all these teams, Challen Rogers, your Steve Priolos, your Brett Manny's, they are these defensive guys that, like, so I mean, I can understand if you think you're going to get that caliber of guy. You talk about guys saying he's hard to play against. What is this guy going to be in 10 years? Is he somebody that's mature enough to really be that team leader? Whereas goal scorers are hot and cold. So I definitely understand that argument. Yeah, I'm just always hard pressed, and big names, big names sell tickets.
Yeah. I mean, and again, Latrell Harris is still in his mid-20s, for instance, right? I mean, he came into the league as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old. Like, they're not old on defense. They're getting older, just new in his 30s, Cree in his 30s. But they're not an old defense. So I think, maybe they can do it. And then there's a lot of factors that could go into it. So anyone who tells you they know what Jamie Dawick's going to do right now, there's no way. There's no way.
Jamie Dalek doesn't even know what he's doing right now.
Nailed down. What's that?
I said, I bet you Jamie Dalek doesn't even know what he's doing right now. He's
Oh, no.
still
I
weighing
wouldn't think
options.
he would. Well, there's no way. Why would you know on May 14th what you're going to do sometime in September when there's still so much to see how these guys play this summer?
That's what I was just going to say. After a summer of playing and getting to watch and evaluate things.
Yeah. Especially with some of the guys like Connor Knock is coming up to senior lacrosse. Trumbull, I think, will be playing his first full season of senior lacrosse. You can see what these guys do. McLeod is going to play a very full season. He's planning to play with the Merchants and Brooklyn Lacrosse Club, hoping to go to the President's Cup with the Merch, who are hosting it in Whitby, the Brooklyn Merchants. So, these guys are going to play a lot of lacrosse, and there's still a lot that they can show before the draft. So nothing's set, but it's going to be a fascinating discussion to watch through the course of the summer.
100%. As fascinating, I think, as our picks are going to be, because I am honestly picking the Rush to sweep it. I've gone out. No, I think they're going to win. I really do think they're going to win the first one. I think they're going to win the third. It'll be interesting to see. Yeah, I'm curious to hear your how you're going to pick these guys, because I went with the Bisons, not the Buffalo. So I went with the Bisons. I would pick the Rush in Friday, and then I picked Buffalo Saturday or Sunday, and then I think they're going to win it in 3 games. But we'll only make you pick 2 of them for this one, and as long as my Rush don't sweep it, we're good.
I actually hadn't thought of that the Rush have the bison head as their logo, and Buffalo, the Bandits are from Buffalo, and it's that collision. We got to get some graphic of 2 bisons ramming heads or something. But
I would figure grammatically you would like this more, because bison is actually the correct term. Buffalo never actually had buffalo; they only had bison.
Right. It's mostly bison in North America, right?
Right. So that's why, I would just figure grammatically that automatically the Rush are going to win this.
That's a good point. I think we have a 3-game final. I think they're going to split this weekend. Are you going to make me pick who wins in each? Because I'll probably get those wrong, but I'll probably be right that they split.
I will, because I'm hoping we pick the opposite ones too.
Okay. I'm going to take the home teams, and I'll take Buffalo Friday and Saskatchewan in the second game.
I actually went with the opposite. I did go the opposite way. And I really, as much as I like to talk smack, for the Buffalo fans, I would like to see Buffalo win in Buffalo, just for them. Give them one more year.
Yeah.
But now I've changed my opinion on that. So anybody who watched Yeti Talks knows that. Now I am just anti-orange. I'm so green now. You can ask Charity. I'm going to get an electric car. I believe in man-made global warming, all of it. We are going green in this house until the season is over.
So you didn't believe in human effect on global warming? Never mind.
I didn't believe it. It's not that there's no effect. Obviously there is, but if a volcano is going to wipe out all of your stuff in 5 minutes, it's hard to believe. It just seems arrogant to me to think we can have that much of an effect.
Okay.
And I'm an absolutely not educated idiot, so I would not take my word on any of it. But back to lacrosse. Can the Bison shut down Albany and keep them sub 10? Do you think either game Albany, I'm saying, but do you think either game do you think either game that the Rush are able to hold the Bandits under 9 goals?
Under 9 or under 10?
I would say 9 and under. So basically I'll give 10 as the push.
I think they will once.
And my real question is Josh Byrne. I just don't feel like they can. He's so cold going into it, and I just feel like mathematically it's
not going to last.
Right. He's going to come out and he's going to tear it up. Because I would love to see it, but I really feel like the way he's playing, he's due. He's just too good of a player to not, and I'm expecting him honestly to be the MVP of the finals and come out with like a sock trick each night or something insane.
I can see that, although you just picked Saskatchewan to sweep, didn't you?
Which is why I know I'm wrong.
So you might want to pick a Rush player as your MVP. I'm just saying.
I'm hoping it's Austin Shanks, or I'll give it to Big Frank. Frank the Tank, as OJ likes to call him up there. Yeah. Frank the Tank, I would love to see as the MVP. And honestly, if they could shut out Buffalo, wow, would that be a talking point?
Shut out.
Like one quarter. I'm not even saying obviously not the game, but I'm saying if they can go a quarter, like if they can shut them out for a quarter, I think that is huge. And then you will have that sub 9 and under goal. Yeah.
You never know. We'll see. I did write about some of the key factors again on IL Indoor today. And one of the big things is transition. And I think what's really interesting is that Saskatchewan obviously has had huge success running the ball. Jake Boudreau, Mike Messenger, Matt Hossack, and others have done very well, right? They've really been a dynamic transition team, getting the forwards coming off the bench, etc. Vancouver also was very successful running the ball, right? With guys like Owen Grant, Jeff Cornwall, Reed Bowering, etc. And they scored 6 transition goals against Rochester in the quarterfinals. 6. 2 of them were empty netters at the end of the game, but that's still 4 transition goals in a game. That's huge, right? And they went up against Buffalo, and I went through to check just to make sure. Vancouver, guess how many goals Vancouver scored in transition against Buffalo in 2 games?
In 2 games? Boy, the way you're asking me makes me want to say like 2, but I would think it'd be a little. I don't know. Buffalo does so good on the transition, usually getting back. So I'm going to go with 2. 0. Oh.
0. Their defenders amongst them had a couple of assists, but that was on plays. I went back to double check, and they're on plays where they just ran the ball over center, handed it off, and then the offense set up. There was a couple you could say were sort of unsettled transition, but it wasn't anything where the defense was pushing it up. It was more like off face-offs or scrambles where maybe things hadn't completely gelled, but it wasn't defensive transition push. Buffalo is very good at taking away transition. I think that's going to be a key to the series. Can Saskatchewan score on the run, or will Buffalo continue to just be so hard to score against? I think it's going to be a big factor.
Yeah, no, I honestly think that's more of why they don't. You're seeing their goal totals down more, though. They take that transition responsibility so serious, though, that high guy is always back. They're not staying and forcing that extra, trying to get the extra 1 or 2.
Yeah, and it will cost you, like it will cost you a goal or some goals here and there, but it's going to prevent goals. And that's you think of the offensive firepower, right? You think of Smith and Byrne and McKay in the playoffs and all these guys, and you think John Tavares leading the team, they're going to be all about the offense. But no, I mean, bear in mind that John Tavares was a great defensive player. He could have probably been a Hall of Fame player playing defense in the NLL. Nothing but defense. He was so good. He knows the value of defense. The team knows the value of defense. The other big factor to me, both these goalies have been outstanding in the playoffs. Frank Scigliano has an .833 save percentage in the playoffs, and he's 45 points, I think, behind Matt Vince. I think Vince is at .878 in the playoffs. Right? That's insane. That Matt Vince, and I put this in my story today. Matt Vince, he's won a 3-peat with Rochester. He's on the verge of a 3-peat with Buffalo. He's won 8 or 9 goalie of the year awards. I can't even keep track anymore, right? Yeah. He holds basically every goaltending record in the NLL, regular season, postseason. He's been fantastic. His best stretch of lacrosse, of goaltending, his best numbers in his career come over the last 3 games.
That's insane.
Nuts. Like I went back and checked. I'm like, come on. He's got a better save percentage than he's ever had in a playoff run. Obviously, his .878 or .875, whatever, is going to be better than he had for a regular season. But he's never even had a playoffs like this. Like, it's astonishing.
Well, my favorite is just there's only one other goalie who's 3-peated. Oh wait, never mind. It's the same goalie just a few years ago. It's like it's. Yeah, the old adage that offense will win you some games, but defense wins championships. And I really think Buffalo, like you talked about it when they brought in Farrell, it was more about saving their defenders, the energy that they were expending on the faceoff than it was about, getting the extra possessions. I mean, yes, obviously everybody wants possessions, but it was more about saving the guys that they were sending out there to take the faceoffs.
It was because the guys that were taking faceoff were Ian McKay and Nick Weiss.
And how did that pan out?
Right? Yeah. That's not bad. I mean, Ian McKay, everybody knows, had a great season. Nick Weiss may have had the best season of his career, and he's been great for a long time. I think he was right in the talk for Transition Player of the Year if there weren't so many great transition players this year. I mean, he has been fantastic, scored another huge goal for them in the playoffs. Like, I think whether Farrell is the guy long-term, I look at Buffalo and I say, well, Bo Columbus could be there when they pick at the end, either 13th or 14th in the draft this fall. He might be a nice addition because he's a good face-off guy. He'll get you some possessions. He'll take the pressure off the other guys, and he's a solid defensive player. You can run it there.
But it'd be a nice change not to have to send the guy off literally no matter what happens after the face-off.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, John Tavares, I actually asked him last year before the playoffs, like, when you go back to back, are you gonna because they had the 2 games in 2 nights, right, with Albany in the finals. I'm like, are you still gonna go with Farrell, or are you gonna get an extra pair of legs on defense? He's like, he basically said, no, we're gonna go with Connor, and saying that he thinks that having Farrell taking those faceoffs is as valuable as having an extra pair of legs on the defensive end. And I mean, it worked out for them last year. They swept the finals. It's working out for them pretty well this year. And I wasn't questioning John Tavares, like, is this a logical thing to do? And more of like, would this make sense? And boy, he seems to know what he's doing. It's funny because people talk about John Tavares like he's just rolling them out there and letting them play, right? He's got all the talent.
Well, he's only winning because he's got the most talented team. It's like, well, that's not really how this works, guys.
Not completely, no. I mean, yes, I think Buffalo would be very good with another coach, but I don't think you should underestimate what John Tavares means to that team and the way that they play and the way that they manage themselves. Because again, this is a team that takes a lot of penalties, right? A very physical team.
The playoffs and the finals, though.
No.
Watch their penalty minutes drop. And it's insane. Like, yeah, during the regular season, they 100% too. But like you were talking earlier about, they just know when to turn it on and off and when to shut that down. And they have built up that animosity between the players so much, I think, during the year that it does help draw the guys off onto,
Yes. People don't like playing against Buffalo for the most part, right? Like they don't like the Bandits because they are so tough to play against.
Albany used to do good. They had a pretty gritty style, but not so much this year. We took a couple steps back after the finals. I don't know what happened there. It just was like, oh, never mind. I guess we're going to go backwards. But honestly, the biggest thing for me this year was getting to see how much or how underrated Matt Hasek was. To watch him play, and after you guys pointed him out, and I started actually watching more and keying in on him, and I was like, boy, he might be the better Hasek brother now. Like, as you're watching, I'm really sitting there going, boy, defensively, as far as defensive responsibility, boy, he really, I mean, and it's hard because the body of work that Graham Hasek has, and he's such a freak athlete. Like, nobody just pushes him over.
No.
But,
no. And I mean, he's worked so hard for that. And Graham Hasek, I mean, God, it'd be hard to think of a decision where you've got 2 defenders and one of them's Graham Hasek and you take the other guy.
Yeah.
But I even with his brother right now, you might be right. I think Matt probably had the better series in the semifinals. Graham's still one of the best on the planet. If I'm building a team, I'm not going to take long before I write his name down on the roster. But boy, it wouldn't be long before I write Matt down either.
Yeah, the caused turnovers, I forget what his total was, but that was really it for me. That really opened my eyes and I started watching and it's not just the big ones or he's just kind of picking up, like knocking down balls. Like he is literally making guys drop it all the time.
Yeah. You know the funny thing about the caused turnovers, because
it does depend on where you play.
It's very important. What's that?
It does depend on where you play to how they rate it.
It does. I did that. We talked about this before. You break it down. Saskatchewan's near the top of the league in caused turnovers awarded in their games in their arena. And Matt Hasek got 6 in a game early in the season. And that's probably the difference with him tying for the top of the caused turnovers with Mitch DeSnoo with 34, I believe, for the season. But he may have had 6 in that game. I haven't actually gone and done a deep dive back into that to double check. But that almost, to me, made me kind of move off him for defensive player of the year. Cause I was like, oh, was he really that good, or his numbers inflated? And that's making me think. And then I watched him some more, went back and watched. I'm like, yeah, no, he's been fantastic.
Yeah.
He's
been my favorite player to watch as far as the spotlight. Like every year I kind of get a spotlight on somebody that I open my eyes a little bit and I start watching. And he was the guy this year for me that was like the big eye-opening experience where I was like, oh, he's different. Like, so last year it was Del Bianco. Like I really was paying more attention to that. And to watch the way he transitions is, I think it's so impressive. Like it's already, you can tell, so processed. The save to the pass has been, he must have done it a million times in his life, because I don't know if anybody is smoother, just coming around with it and throwing it.
I don't think so. So who have you got for next year?
Who have I got for next year is going to be my player to watch? I don't know. That'll be
too early.
I'm honestly hoping that it's somebody with the Firewolves. That would be a nice nice change. But Will Johansson was another one of those guys. When you watched how
Johansson,
and you watched how smart he was. So I think the decision to make him the video coach last year
Yeah.
paid off in dividends that most people will never understand, like the IQ level. So when Nardella tore his ACL and was out for a
Yeah.
year, his improvement on defense was insane.
Yeah.
Like I did
Yeah.
not expect him, and I don't think most people appreciated how much better he got. Like he must have spent so much time watching film that he got amazingly better. Like nobody comes back from a knee injury, in my opinion, and you're like, wow, look at the improvement. But he really did.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially the first year, right? Because it usually takes 2 years to get back to full strength and agility. It's the second season, right, where you're really back. But yeah, his improvement. And I mean, to be fair, Nardello actually was a good defensive player before that. Surprisingly good considering he was thought of as a face-off guy. But from the start, Glenn Clark pointed out, no, we can play him in any situation. And he did. He played any situation, and they were comfortable with him. So, so it's not like he came out of nowhere, but that was a big improvement. It'll be interesting. I think, how do you feel about Adam Poitras?
I liked him. I didn't have a ton of time to watch, but I did after that Vegas game. I was very impressed because
Watch him next year. He might be your guy.
I'm thinking actually next year he probably was. So I got to say, as I was watching through the teams, though, is Saskatchewan's offense surprised me. I think everybody likes to talk about their defense, but the way that their offense moves, that's probably. I think the most underrated offense in the league.
Yeah, and I mean it's not the highest scoring offense, but it is very balanced. And it's funny that it's become this way after trading Mark Matthews, who was the backbone of that offense for so long. But I think it was the right time, and they got Zach Mans at a time they could. When I don't know, another year, maybe he does what he did in Saskatchewan and Toronto, and you can't get him as part of that trade.
Yeah.
Right? Or maybe they just don't make that deal. So I think getting Zach Mans was huge. He's been their leading scorer. He's their dynamic guy, right? He's the little spark plug. And you've got Shanks, who's just a dead shooter. You've got Robert Church, who's just one of the smartest and surprisingly quick players in the game. I'm not saying he's the fastest guy, but he gets where he needs to be because he's such a high IQ guy. Ryan Keenan, we haven't even mentioned, right? The captain of the team and does nothing but score huge goals, right? Like, I think they have a lot of guys. Brock Haley, the rookie that they brought in from Vancouver, they've got a lot of pieces that can make that thing go.
No, I got to see the man show in the first game of the year, and that was impressive. I was like, wow, this guy. I had kind of
in the overtime.
Yeah, I had kind of picked up earlier. I had watched him when he first got. They first had that trade, and I was watching, and I was like, boy. Why did Toronto get rid of this guy? And then, oh well, they did get somebody equally. But that's one of those trades where kind of both guys, like, it worked out very well. Like, it suited the player style almost, it seemed.
I think so, yeah. And Mark Matthews is still one of the great players, right? That we've seen, one of the top scorers over the last decade, a great player. But Mans, you've got more years, obviously. So now what I'm trying to think so Adam J came in that trade as well, which I think was a big factor. And then what was the other part? But wasn't there a draft pick as well?
I would imagine Toronto seems to get draft picks for everybody.
Yeah. No, they gave a draft.
Oh, they gave a draft pick because
I was when they were still.
Yeah.
So let's see. I've just pulled it up. Hopefully it'll load. There we go. So on their way, they sent Zach Mans, Adam J, and a first-round pick, which was 12th overall in the 2023 draft, and that was Levi Anderson, who has not really come to fruition yet, but I think that's a pretty nice addition as well. I mean, this is a guy who's not even dressing right now because this roster is so deep, but he can play D-tranny, he can play forward, he's dynamic, athletic, and he's I think a developing player. I think that he's a bit raw. I think they still need to develop him some, but he's a guy that in the long term, I think is going to be a really nice addition.
Yeah. No, I was a huge fan of that Zach Mans after I watched him go there. It was a perfect fit. It seemed like the way they play together with that offense. I don't know. I've got nothing but good things to say about the Rush this year. I talked a little smack on them at the beginning of the year, so they have completely humbled me. And not that I thought I had a great, IQ when it came to picking teams, but I believe if we go through the beginning, Buffalo was the only choice. And I mean, really, my dogs could have probably picked Buffalo to make it to the rest of the way.
Yeah, I will take a little credit on this because I haven't had a great season predictions of picks in the games, but I did have Saskatchewan finishing top 4 in the league and hosting a playoff game and being real challengers this year. I thought they were ready to go. So,
unfortunately, though, we have to go because I have a puppy who is chewing my cables under the computer. Is why I've been going like crazy, and he will not leave me alone. I thought I'm guessing he has to go outside. So,
okay.
Unfortunately, that'll be
let my dog out as well.
all for us. Thank you
we'll
so much, though, Stamper. I appreciate you taking the time today, and we will be back next week with at least one more, maybe 2 more at Wobbles before we switch into summer mode. All right. Thanks so much, everybody. We'll see you.
Perfect. Nice job.